listen up. Y'all, it's the queen of automation, Megan Donnelly, here to give you inspiration. Founders and business owners gather round. I'ma show you how to build systems that'll astound. Streamline your processes, no need for...
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Queen of Automation podcast, where we're talking about technology and operations and why they're only good when they work. And hopefully, we're giving you insights on how to help make them work. Today, I have with me Elijah. He is, of course, another Brand Built member. I've met him through Brand Built, but have built a relationship outside of Brand Built on LinkedIn because we all have this thing that we're obsessed with called LinkedIn, and apparently we all need lives.
We're going to talk about LinkedIn, Megan.
No, we're not talking about LinkedIn.
I'm happy to talk about LinkedIn, but yeah.
We are going to talk about it a little bit though, because you use it in a really cool, unique way. So Elijah is a innovative entrepreneur, and that's what he is like calling himself. And I truly believe that, because he has, first of all, he has this kick-ass agency where he's building tech. This is why he and I get along so well, because he's doing the same stuff that I'm doing, but on the next scale, the next level. And his agency is, doing really cool things for really big companies, big teams of companies, and building some really cool apps. So there's that side of it. But I want him to tell you all about the other side of his personality and his brand, because he does some really cool things outside of the technology world with helping people build brands and lifestyles they love and all of that stuff that we love to talk about on this podcast. So say hello, tell everybody where you're calling in from, all the normal, like, this is how you intro a podcast crap. And
this is my life story, my life story in 2 minutes. Yeah, totally. I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. I've been here for just over 5 years. I spent 18 years in Santa Monica, and I grew up in the thick of tech, Silicon Valley. Don't really miss California too much right now, aside from, well, I'll tell you what, I just, I'm a little slow because I'm having that harsh reintegration back into work after a 13-day road trip with my family, where we flew from Salt Lake to Portland, and then we drove all the way down the coast, all these small coastal cities in the middle of the redwoods, until we got to go see my family in San Francisco. And coming into the Bay Area after this tranquil 10 days of staying in random Airbnbs like yurts or an old Airstream in the middle of the redwoods, and then coming into the Bay Area, I hit 12 miles of stop and go traffic. And then we were in this awful south of Market Airbnb where I couldn't find parking, and it took me 45 minutes to get to the other side of the city. So all the stress just came back, and then I got back here. When you walk up
to the door and you're like, "Hey, Mom, hey, Dad, just so you know, this is how much I love you."
Oh, trust me. It was my sister, and she just has not come to see us enough since we moved here. And it's so easy because we have room here, and I can't even stay at her place because she's in a tiny apartment by Golden Gate Park. Anyways, that's where I'm from. And like you mentioned, I've got this agency. I've had it for 14 years. We started initially working with eBay as just relief for their engineering team, and then started doing design and branding and everything else. And right now we're pretty much an even blend of these big enterprise companies and first-time founders and tech entrepreneurs who are just trying to get going. So they actually need a fractional product manager to help them not just look at the product, but all of the business objectives of what they're building and how that all goes down. And so that covers product requirements, documentation, and user journey. We do a bunch of human-centered design, and then a lot of UX. And we'll do low-fidelity clickable prototypes to try to help get them funding, their early brand footprints, all of the UI design, and then full-stack engineering, tons and tons of engineering. And that's where most of
you're playing in the world. At least your agency is playing in the world. So to give everybody the backstory, when I talk about my backstory and I talk about corporate America, this is the space that I played in. This is what I was doing for large ass companies. And it was fun until it wasn't for me anyway. At least I think it's probably more fun when you own your own agency than it is working for the actual company itself. And like in the, as I was working for $1 billion lifestyle company, and it was really cool.
I don't know if fun is a word I'd use, Megan. I don't know if fun is. I think there's more margin involved, and if you are working for somebody else and you decide to not do that anymore, well, that's it. If you start something doing that same thing, you can eventually possibly have some kind of liquidity event, which makes all of the work you put into it have a payoff. Sometimes, not always. Agencies, especially software agencies, are really difficult to sell, but it's a guarantee that you'll never sell your job. Like that's not going to happen, right? So I don't think, honestly, having been on both sides of this, before I had started the agency, I had a really weird company where we took items from pop culture, like video games and movies and things like that. An example would be like in the World of Warcraft game, you have these little power-up potions. Mana potion is a wildly popular one that lets you cast magic. And we thought, wow, there's 15 million kids playing this game. What if we brought these in the real world and got the IP around that? And this is when energy shots were going crazy, like the 5-hour energy shots you see on the counter at 7-Eleven. We said, well, we'll put them in the same potion bottles and we'll make it blue. And we'll call it mana because we can trademark that because nobody's done it in food and beverage.
My kids would buy it.
And I'm like, why not? I know nothing about the CPG or food and beverage industry. Let's do it. And so we started this company. We ended up on like 4,500 shelves and 14 SKUs. Like Hot Topic was one of our really big channels because as soon as that all got out, of course, they say, well, video game culture isn't as hot as it was, but vampires are huge. What can you make? And I said, what about an energy drink packaged in an IV bag that has the same nutritional properties as human blood, but it tastes like fruit punch and has caffeine? They're like, I love it. And then we try to figure out how to make it, and we'd make it. So, we did that for 4 years. That was insane, but we were super early on content marketing. This is back before you could even have any sort of ads on the Meta platform, right? And so we'd grow these massive fan pages and use that to market. We would film dumb stunts that we thought our audience would be interested in and that were press worthy. An example that almost got us sued was we decided, since we've got these potions, that one of the big kind of running jokes in the World of Warcraft, I don't know if you're a fan of this. You're a geek. You've played
my kids
some
are.
of these MMOs.
I know, I know enough to have a conversation with them. I know enough to ask the right questions to figure out what they're doing. And then I'm I have no idea what you're talking about.
But you're not up at 4 a.m. grinding for gold and stuff like that. Okay. Okay.
No.
So to give you a hint as to the obsession back then with this demographic, they'd have these guilds. They're basically little clubs that you could join with other players and you go on these quests together, right?
Yep.
They'd have guilds that were so exclusive that the requirements were that you play at least 40 hours a week. That was the starting. That was like table stakes. It was 40 hours a week. So you basically have a job on top of a job. And this was causing the demise of marriages and people's livelihoods and everything else.
It's digital
absolutely
steroids.
Yeah, absolutely insane. So one of the running jokes was that you are covering hundreds of miles of virtual territory on these quests. Yet most of the players were sitting there eating a bag of Cheetos and chugging Red Bull and, hadn't physically moved in probably 6 months.
Living in their mom's basement.
Right. But these are ultra endurance athletes in Azeroth, right? So we thought it would be funny to get 2 treadmills, dress up as the characters that we play, like an elf and a paladin, hook these up to PCs using a machine interface that mimicked the keystrokes based on the treadmill revolutions, which I think we did by dissecting an optical mouse and then having it read a mark on the treadmill, right? I think we used GlovePie, this machine interface, and it worked. And we realized that it's really hard to run at the speed of your avatar to get it to move. So we had this virtual race and we filmed it through Azeroth, and we had our swords and battle axes and we're dressed in the elf ears and the hair. And, my business partner was not as in good of shape as I was. And he was just dying and pouring sweat and dropping everything. And, this thing, and this is a long time ago, this immediately popped over 1 million views on YouTube. They featured it on the homepage. We start getting all this inbound, and then we get a cease and desist from Vivendi Entertainment saying, hey, you used our in-game footage. We're like, isn't that good for everybody? This is so funny. They're like, take it down now. We're like, okay.
We're going to
and we pulled it down. But that's the kind of stuff we did. And it really just made me realize that it was the digital part of this that I enjoyed a lot more than the physical part, which involved having, 15 different ingredients from all over the country sitting in a warehouse in the City of Industry, all expiring at different times, super complex supply chain and production. the FDA knocking on your door all the time, which also happened. We were a handful of geeks that looked like a really big company.
Yeah.
And so we got a lot of the kind of attention that you wouldn't want to get, multiple lawsuits. It was a hard business. So we sold that. And then, yeah, I kind of went right into the agency space. Prior to that, speaking of automation, I did a lot of automation like in the real world of things you touch. So I worked in robotics for 10 years. Things like the Tesla plant, Boeing, a lot of food and beverage, circuit board manufacturing, you name it. Like I struggled to think of a factory I haven't been inside of to try to figure out how to make it more efficient.
It's kind of amazing. This is why I love your backstory, though, because it's at the core, right? Like at the core of everything you've done, when you kind of go through all of it, it's all stemmed around this like digital, which, like you just said, it all comes from that kind of digital mindset and being able to automate things and use technology to improve lives, which leads us into where you are now, because
Right.
I think you're still doing that. No, I personally think you're still doing that because, well, first of all, everybody just has to go check him out on LinkedIn. As you can tell from his personality, he's hilarious and his content is amazing to read, but it's not just funny when it needs to be. It's also aspirational and inspirational. And he makes fun of himself. He makes fun of life. He makes fun of, I can't even describe it. You just have to go out and see it. But I want you to talk about all the challenges.
Very kind.
Because the challenge, because I feel like I'm similar in a way. Like we have decided that we're going to work in the world of technology. What the hell are we thinking, right? Like it's always broken. Shit's always broken. Like what? So
Sure.
There's nothing else that you can do but laugh at it. And so I kind of like how you have taken that and turned it into like, what is it? The 21-day sprints, right? 21-day sprints?
Yeah. I'll be totally honest, Megan, and just say that I've got a very complicated relationship with technology. I'm a dork, and I grew up on Star Wars, and I have always fallen in love with this concept of futurism, the singularity. I've been thinking about AI since I was a child, and now,
robots
we're seeing all this stuff happen, and we can talk about AI if you want. I actually just did a training for a medical healthcare technology company on AI and talked about the possibilities of a singularity and where we're going and if we'll ever get to AGI and all of that. But this is stuff that I've just always been obsessed with. And at the same time, I'm really a student of evolutionary biology. And I have a daily struggle where everything that I do is in this 27-inch box of lights in front of me. And if you zoom out, right, if you really zoom out, if you were to pretend that you were an alien observing yourself from another planet, having no idea what was going on, here's this organic form staring at this box of lights and pecking on keys for 10, 14 hours a day. And is that really life, right? Yeah. So this kind of goes into this whole concept of these 21-day challenges. And this started for me 16 years ago. And I've been in tech for almost 28 years. And when I say that out loud, it makes me feel really, really old because I also got a late start. But so even back then, this was a struggle. Prior to the robotics, talk about harsh career transitions, I was in wellness. So I was teaching people nutrition, teaching people how to be healthy. I was a trainer in San Francisco, and I went from moving around all day to basically sitting or being at a standing desk or a treadmill desk, which is also kind of awful, all day, right? And so these 21-day challenges started during a time in my life where I was having a lot of problems and a lot of just really, really bad anxiety that was bordering on depression, which are probably just two sides of the same coin anyways. And I realized that when you are in tech and when you have a role like this, the days, the months, the years, they really start to blend together for that reason of you are always doing the same thing, right? And your life starts getting really small. And there's a lot of science around this. And especially when you look at brain development and think back to when you were a kid and you were in elementary school and school was wrapping up for the year, summer's coming up. And when summer started and then you were in the throes of it, it felt like it lasted forever, like those experiences lasted forever, right? Yeah. Now, as a big girl and a big boy, I mean, it's a flash, right? Summer is a flash. And to be honest, like everything's a flash. it all goes by so fast, right? And here we are at our desks looking at our box of lights all day, every single day. And it starts to just all blend
on this podcast
together, right? So there is neuroscience that shows when you're having new experiences, when you're learning new things, exposed to new environments, time actually slows down. Your perception of time, and listen, we all know time is relative, right? I think it was Einstein said, if you're sitting next to a beautiful girl and having a conversation, hours will seem like minutes. If you're sitting on a hot stove, minutes will seem like hours, right? And it's the same thing with these experiences. And that's why I've done some interviews when my grandmother was in her 80s. My grandfather, I had volunteered in a convalescent home for a while and just would love to talk to people and get their experiences and their viewpoints and their big life lessons. And the one thing that always came up was the older I get, the faster time goes by. And again, like they're in this room or living in a center, same thing every day, right? Not a lot of new experiences. They're not learning anything new. So it just keeps speeding up. So my idea was that if I can get myself out of my comfort zone, if I can get myself out of this rut and this routine, time's going to slow down. I'm going to have new novel experiences. It's going to help with avoiding like neurodegenerative disease, all these other things, a whole host of benefits. The problem is it's really easy to say like, hey, just do something new. Get out of your rut.
Right.
Start CrossFit. Go take jujitsu. Wow, you haven't really been dating. Why don't you go get a girlfriend or boyfriend, right? Stuff that is, it's very glib because it's easy from the outside to say, just go do this stuff. The hard part is that it's very unapproachable because there's no framework around it. It just feels too daunting. And at least it did for me, especially at that point in my life. It's very overwhelming. Yeah. So go ahead.
Hang on. I want to throw this in there because I love, this is exactly where I wanted to take this conversation because the stuff that you're doing, it's just crazy to me because obviously, right? Like the queen of automation, I'm a tech person. I'm all about it, but it's like, I am all about it in the frame of reference where it helps you get more time back so you don't have to work in tech or on your computer and you can go outside or do like exactly what he's saying. Right?
Totally.
Like,
say you got that time back, then what?
Yeah.
Right? Then what? See, the whole idea was that you basically you put a container around this stuff and you don't commit to forever. You don't say this is the day I changed my whole life. You just look at it as an experiment. And kind of going back to tech and automation, I'm a huge fan of Agile. Like I remember the day that I really understood and implemented Agile. I'm like, this is going to change the world. And for your listeners who don't know, it's basically just small, minimum viable products with lots of iterations. And it's all with a bias of action, right? Like you build, release, and you keep making it better. I thought, why don't people do that with their lives? Right. So I love this idea of a 3-week experiment, not a commitment to anything else, just an experiment. Like I'm going to try something new for 3 weeks. And the first one I did was a gratitude challenge where I decided every day I was going to write down something that I was grateful for. It could be as simple as the fact that I have eyes and I can see. There's a lot of people who don't. Or it could be like, I've got this beautiful daughter and I was raising her by myself at the time, which is really challenging, but still like such a blessing. Right. And she was healthy and I was healthy. Right. So many things. And there's all of this neuroscience again of if you're looking at what you already have, if you love what you have and can really appreciate it, you'll just feel like a brighter person and everything else will look more optimistic. And it has been known to be one of the best things to help with anxiety and depression. Right. And it worked. Like it worked really well. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Now I want to do another one. I did one on no complaining, where for 21 days, you make a distinct effort to avoid any verbal complaining. And you can do it as much as you want inside your head. But it's, again, like a total frame breaker. You start noticing things about the world. You start noticing how people have this human connection and will actually approach you in a conversation that opens with a complaint. Like, oh, isn't this weather so fucking hot today? You know, oh God, my wife, she did this. And it's just, it's like we have this inherent disposition to connect with each other over complaints. And once you remove that, it kind of opens up some space and that changed things. So I just kept going and I did some insane dating challenges back when I was single. It's actually how I ended up getting married, where I stacked several of these 21-day challenges on top of each other. I did all sorts of altruistic 21-day challenges. I did one with my daughter where we made sandwiches every afternoon for 21 days and took them to the park because we lived in Santa Monica and we had lots of homeless people everywhere. No shortage of that. So that's something we could literally do, in different parks every day for 21 days and not see the same person. And this just went on and on, right? And so now this has gone on to all sorts of other challenges. I've got endless Google Sheets of data and all these results and things from it. And I have a weekly newsletter where I talk about these mental models and frameworks and challenges people can try. And as you mentioned, I write about it on LinkedIn simply because I really thought it was just kind of boring to write about UX and UI and the stuff that actually makes me money. Yeah. This isn't a business. I don't really know where it's going. I do have a website. Like I've got the domain 21days.com because when I fell in love with that idea of a 3-week wrapper, I was able to negotiate that domain, which is great. Especially because everybody from Oprah Winfrey to Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle have 21-day challenges. Like they all have these 21-day challenges. But yeah, a lot of it kind of folds into this belief that if you can do something consistently for 3 weeks, you can make it a habit. And
yeah, that's the habit.
It's bullshit. But it's a social belief. It's a social construct. It's, the truth is it's different for everybody. This Dr. Maxwell Maltz in the 60s was working with amputees and found that after 21 days of therapy, he was able to get rid of the phantom pains they'd have in their missing limbs. And so he started self-experimenting and had the thesis that you can actually create real behavioral change in 21 days of consistent work. It's not true. I think the average is actually 62, 64. And the reality is it is days. And it's completely different for everybody based on the extent of change you're trying to make and your history, all the things that make up you and your whole background and personality.
Right. I mean, I can't because Atomic Habits or whatever they say. And actually, I've heard as low as 14 days. And then I've heard, obviously, the 21 days is the thing that everyone kind of focuses on. I know for me, it doesn't work that way. I mean, having ADHD and having a neurodiverse brain, are you kidding me? In 21 days, I'm going to get distracted at least 850 times, and I'm going to have to restart and restart and restart. And so it's one of those things where if you have any type of neurodiversity in your brain, 21 days is like a blip, and there's no way I'm going to re-distract myself or, be able to, I just
get it. I mean, I wouldn't have the background that I do or would have self-experimented my way into marriage if I wasn't incredibly neurodiverse. My wife's a therapist and she calls me out on this all the time. She's very kind.
That way? I self-experimented my way into marriage.
It might be an entire other podcast episode, but it was insane. Like it got completely out of control and I was like A/B testing stuff and it was bad.
That's so funny.
It ended up bad anyways.
About you though, because you've taken it's not, you're using tech and operations and systems and processes in a different way, right? Like your brain, and this is why I feel like I connect with you on this weird level because I don't use it in the normal way either, right? It's developers are very systematic and they do things, as you know, you run into developers, they're very systematic, right? They want things done a certain way. It has to be coded this way. It has to be, and you and I take this creative way of looking at the space and just blow it up, which is what I think. This is why I like those 21-day challenges that you're putting out there, because it's get outside of the little box and do these things and push yourself outside of your comfort zone, which most neurodiverse people or tech people, they are very happy living in their mom's basement.
they like all their ducks in a row. Yeah.
Because they don't want to get outside of their comfort zone. Until you get to be our age or a little bit older, a little bit wiser, well, maybe not wiser, but older, and have a little bit more experience. And you're like, maybe I should not sit here all day long. Maybe I should take a walk. Maybe I should do literally anything else for half the week.
Yeah. Life gets small very quickly. That's what happens. That's what happens when you stay in your comfort zone, is life gets small very quickly. And it's just too short. It's way too short for that. I mean, personally, and I can't speak for everybody, but I want to have a rich textured tapestry of tons and tons of life experiences. And in order to do that, you will inherently have to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
For me, having a wrapper around that makes it approachable.
Yeah.
And that's, so I've got this, I don't know if you're familiar with Jesse Itzler. Have you heard of that guy? He was a white rapper in the 90s, and then he somehow got into venture capital and started like Zico coconut water, and then married Sarah Blakely from Spanx, like crazy. But I'd seen some video where he publishes this thing he calls the Big Ass Calendar, and I've got one on my wall over in my office here, and it's an annual calendar, so every month is in one view, and it's got all these little stickies. And so the idea is that you plan experiences, like not work experiences, like I've got to fly to Cincinnati and do an AI presentation, but like, oh, this is this camp trip with this kid. This is the, so I put my 21-day challenges on top of that too. So I can look in the year and say, this is my target for these experiences that I want to have, where I'm going to go really deep. And again, you know, maybe it's not going to build a habit, but it's deeper than 2 weeks of trying something. It's not as daunting as a month. And at the end of it, I'm going to have a story. You know, that's the best part, is I'm going to have an experience, and it's fun to talk to people about. It inspires people. So that's really the motivation behind it.
This is the reason that we talk about, and we talk about this a lot in Brand Build, and I talk about this a lot in my content, even though I'm talking about automation and technology. One of the things that I always talk about is you're not building a job or a career. You should be building a lifestyle. None of your goals, if you want to have revenue goals, awesome. You should probably have some revenue goals, because, you know, money, like, if you don't want to eat ramen noodles, you need money, whatever. But they should be based on your lifestyle goals. All your goals should be lifestyle based. You want to buy a boat. You want to live on the beach. You want to travel to Europe. You want to do, your money and business goals should be based on your lifestyle, and not just growing the business to grow the business. And this is something that Elijah does really well with his stuff, because he's pushing people like, no, like, that's great. You run a company. Awesome. Good for you. High five. Like, no one cares. Like, nobody cares. Because at the end of the day, nobody cares. Companies. But what are you doing with your life? Like, how are you living your life so that you just don't spend it always working? You know what? And there's people out there that, like, I guess, you know, they say they enjoy always working. Fine. You do you. You go over there. The rest of us, Megan and Elijah's of the world, we're going to be over here. And we're going to have these really cool companies, but we're going to be over there also having amazing lives, because we figured out how to, you know, like, integrate the two and balance them and have experiences while also running a company and building a lifestyle. And that, to me, is the key message behind all of this. Is so many people are caught up in just building, they've built themselves a new job. Like, they've left corporate America and now they're going to be an entrepreneur, and now they're working, you know, 70 hours a week in front of the little box with the lights, which I'm now going to use forever.
One of my favorite quotes about entrepreneurship is that entrepreneurs are the only people who work 80 hours a week so that they won't have to work 40. Yes. And there's so much truth in that. And I get caught up in it. And I also tell myself the story that I'm very passionate about this and I like it. And then I start feeling cooked. I do this all the time. Like, I do this over and over again. You think I'd learn.
Cycles. Yeah.
But I don't. And I also have this fear that if I slow down enough to really take stock of what's happening inside of me, instead of just always having this exterior stimulus pulling me in one direction or another, that I'll never get going again. You know, that's a very real fear. So this last trip that I took that I mentioned at the beginning when we were talking was probably the first time in, 7 years that I went like 10 days without opening my laptop. Didn't open LinkedIn, didn't open any apps on my phone other than Google Maps. That was it. Yep. I brought a journal, I wrote stuff, and it was really hard coming back. There was an incredible grinding of the gears where I'm like, oh shit, I've made a huge mistake because I don't know if I can start again. And that was Monday. Today's Friday. I feel a lot better already. Good. Yeah. But it does start to beg the question of, have I just sufficiently distracted myself again from something, from some signal inside that I just wasn't paying attention to before? So there's that other mental model or question that I love is, are you being pulled towards something, or are you running from something else? Right. Have you heard
the story that I tell about that? So the last big vacation we took down to the beach or whatever, I didn't take my laptop. Like, it wasn't with me because I had my phone, and of course I have Slack. So if anybody really needs me, And then I realized, well, that was a stupid idea or a stupid like mindset to have, right? Oh, well, they can still reach me. No.
Right.
So I gave my 14-year-old my phone, my iPhone, and every day. And now granted, I have a small team, so I do have to have it, if there was an emergency or something. But I said to him, I said, do not give this back to me until we are back in our hotel room at, like 9-10 o'clock at night. And so he had my phone, and I said, obviously don't drop it in the pool or the ocean, please. But, like, here's my phone. And it was amazing. It was amazing because I was there. I was present. I was having a great time. We were doing all sorts of stuff, having experiences and doing all these really cool things. And that was the first time in, like you said, I don't even know how long, that I didn't have my laptop. I wasn't checking my phone. I wasn't like making sure I had no messages. And I was just having a good time.
How many days did it take?
I enjoy my kids, and and I have teenagers. Who enjoys teenagers?
How many days did that take for you to be able to let go, or to not continue to feel the phantom buzzing in your pocket from your iPhone?
It was
when your kid has the phone.
So it was honestly, so I have a little bit. I don't. Okay, so when my corporate experience was, I don't know how, I don't know if you had kids during your corporate experience. So my corporate experience was a little different than yours because I had 4 kids that I never saw for like 10 years because I was working 65 hours a week, and I was in corporate and, making a bunch of money, and we were doing what we needed to do. And it was just, It was awful. So by the time I came out of that and realized, well, holy shit, half my kids' lives just, passed before my eyes.
Right.
And so now it took one day, not even a whole day, because when we were first there at the beach, and I was doing it, and the buzz, checking the phone. My son, who at the time is 14, is like, "Mom, are you like gonna get in the pool? Like, are you here with us?" That's all it took. It was that one conversation, because after I left corporate and went out on my own and realized that, holy shit, I missed so much. Now, obviously, we still had family vacations and stuff, but I never had a family vacation where I didn't have my laptop or any of that stuff. It only took that. Now it only takes that one time. They have to remind me once, and then I'm like, "Ooh, okay, done." Like, I'm not being here. I'm not being present, and that's all it takes now. So it's really shitty when your children have to remind you that you're not being present. And these are teenage boys, so they are all about video games. Like, it's summer break. Are they outside? Absolutely not. There's one back here killing some zombies. There's one over here doing World of Warcraft or whatever, Minecraft or whatever he's doing.
Yeah.
There's another one over here. I mean, they're playing
Probably
video games
Roblox.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Whatever, right? And, but when we're on vacation, we're doing the family vacation thing. We are outside. We are on vacation. It's family vacation. We are not in front of a screen or a device. Yeah. And it's crazy how
that was one really big difference I found this time, was that I always would be like, okay, I wake up early, so I'm just going to get up before everybody else. I'm going to do a bunch of work stuff. Like, why not? And so it would take me I would get to a point, if I was gone for 10, 13 days or so, that it would start to let go a little bit, and I wouldn't feel that pull to work or the urgency culture. Right. And then by the end of the trip, I was in a mindset where I felt like I was on vacation, and then it was time to go back. Yeah. Awful. Yes. By making that agreement with myself this time, that there's going to be this clean delineation of this is when it starts, and I'm not going to have technology in my face. And I actually put on an email autoresponder, which I haven't done in over a decade. That really, I was able to let go right away. Like, just let go. It was a big difference. It was really weird. But as mentioned, it also, it's really letting hard. Go of it like that. It's you kind of, as an entrepreneur, you face this punishment of, for every day that you take off, you have that much more work to do when you get back. It's not like it's just going to vanish, right? And so there's always like the insane inbox and Slack feed and things that are on fire. And so it's that first week back is just inherently awful. It's made me rethink a lot of things coming back from really that. Is. Like,
I've also tried. So my new goal, my new life, you would be very proud of me. My new life goal, right, is to really, so I've been trying, and almost pretty successfully, almost there. Not every week, but doing the 4-day work week, right? And really And I don't care which of the days are your weekends. I don't care which days you take off or whatever, but I'm really, really trying to get there. Because there's no reason that we can't have what we're just talking about on vacation every fucking week. Why are we only doing it on vacation? Screw this shit. Yeah. So a few weeks ago, I have one of my best friends. She is a hairdresser, and she's amazing. And I just realized back in the day when we were in high school or early 20s and we were working like 9 to 5, like service jobs. And this is not to say that these are bad, because she has her own business. She's an entrepreneur. She, whatever. But you know what? She goes to work and she works this hour to this hour, this hour to this hour on the days of the weeks that she wants. And the rest of the days, that is it. She has a booking system. It books for her. She has set hours, and that is it. When she's at work, she's at work. When she's not at work, she's not at work. And a couple of weeks ago, it dawned on me, because she was like, Megan, put your phone down. You're always on your phone. Your team doesn't need you. It's Sunday afternoon at 6, whatever it was. I don't even remember what day it was. And I was like, because she's not wrong. We all have calendars for a reason. We have office hours for a reason. Why the hell are we checking our phones at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night or 10 p.m. on a Sunday night?
Because we're addicted to distraction. I mean, that's the reality.
The next morning, we're going to get up and check our damn calendar anyway. So, oh my God, it was like this slap in the face, like the same thing that happened on vacation when my kids said it about my phone, right? It was this slap in the face, like, wow, like just stupid shit that you realize as you get older and time starts to speed up. You're like, okay, and again, the phone went away, because I'll be damned. And what's great is I'm pretty sure you're a similar leader to how I am. My team is like, they're off Friday at noon until they don't show back up until Monday. I don't expect them to. I don't expect them to answer my messages. If I'm like crazy working on Slack and Slack them something, they're not required to look at it until Monday. Like, ignore me all weekend. Sometimes I'm psycho and just whatever. Why don't I have the same respect for myself? And I just thought of that.
It's a great question.
Damn it. Like, I don't expect my team to work 24 hours a day. Why the hell should I work 24 hours a day? Yeah, anyway, I feel like we could talk about this for 3 hours.
I've honestly lost track of the different type of productivity frameworks that I've tried to do to set those boundaries. Mm-hmm. And again, I think it really comes back to this introspection of just the self-inquiry, asking why you're doing it. I'm really trying to be in touch with that. And unfortunately, you're never going to get those answers if you're always distracted, if your eyes are always in your Slack feed or Instagram or
100%.
whatever else is you're staring into in the palm of your hand, right? So that's the tough part. People always talk about, I need to find my purpose. I need to have work-life balance. I need to set my boundaries. And I think from a mechanistic level, that stuff really isn't that complex, but really understanding why is that important? That's a lot harder to get to. And that requires a little bit of space, right? And if you never have that space to begin with, it's like the serpent eating its own tail. It's just this, you end up in this thrashing. It's a very, very difficult Gordian knot to untangle.
I totally agree. Oh my God, this is such a good conversation. I feel every time I get on the phone with you, because what's funny is we've only had a few, maybe 3. This is maybe the 3rd time we've talked actually on the call, other than like our group calls. But I just feel like I could talk to you for hours, because we have such a similar mindset on so many things. But that being said, I do not want to take up the rest of your day. So I do want you to tell everybody, obviously, where they can find you. They can find you on LinkedIn, and we'll drop direct links in your show notes. But if people want to reach out and learn more about these 21-day challenges, I'm assuming LinkedIn is the best place to find you.
Yeah, or you can go to 21days.com, the number 21, and then days.com. So I publish weekly there as far as just these different mental models or challenges that people can try on their own. I also have a newsletter called Framework Friday that goes out every Friday with some of these thoughts. The agency is Spark and the number 6.com. And I publish 7 days a week on LinkedIn. And it's just /Elijah Szasz. Yeah.
The linky dink, man. The linky dink is going to kill us all.
It really feels like it will sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming on and having a conversation and staring at the box with the lights a little bit longer. I've
only got 10 more hours of it today.
Morning,
totally.
Afternoon. Yep. Yeah, right. Anyway, I appreciate you so much. Thank you,
Super fun,
everybody.
Megan.
I will drop his information in the show notes. And remember, everybody, operations technology, work-life balance that doesn't really exist is only good when it works.
That's right.
And we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Megan. Bye-bye.